Hello there again. So today we will be reading the last part of a story called Bepin Chaudhary's Lapse of Memory. So in the third part, we found that Bepin was now having a battle with himself and also Chunilal, his childhood friend, and the physician. They have convinced him that he had been there in Ranchi, and the physician physician suggested him to have a trip at Ranchi so that the sight of the places might help him remember the incident. Okay, so let's find out what happens. Getting off the train at Ranchi next morning, he realized at once that he had never been there. So Bepin Babu, as he got off the train at Ranchi, he realized at once that the place is completely new. He doesn't have any acquaintance of this place, and he knew that he had never been there. He came out of the station, took a taxi, and drove around the town for a while. So for some time he just drove around the town. He realized that the streets, the buildings, the hotels, the bazaars, the Morabadi hills, with none of these had he the slightest acquaintance. So slightest means even very less chance of knowledge and familiarity with the thing. So he from once knew that he had never been there. Okay, would a trip to Hudro Falls help? So he asked this question because Parimal Ghosh claims that he had a fall and he cut his knee at Hudro Fall, right? He didn't believe so, but at the same time he didn't wish to leave with the feeling that he hadn't tried enough. Because he was there in Ranchi, Hudro Fall is not so far, so he convinced himself that he should go there and see for himself if the place looks familiar to him or not. So he arranged for a car and left for Hudro in the afternoon. Then he visited Hudro. At 5 o'clock the same afternoon in Hudro, two Gujarati gentlemen from a group of picnickers discovered Bepin Babu lying unconscious beside a boulder. So at 5 o'clock, we know that he moved there in the afternoon, but at 5 o'clock, two gentlemen, they were picnickers. They came there to enjoy picnic. They discovered that Bepin Babu was lying on the ground unconscious beside a boulder. So a boulder is like a big large rock, and he's just next to it lying unconscious. Means he is not awake and aware. When he came around, the first thing Bepin Babu said was, "I'm finished, there's no hope left." So what's the hope he's talking about? Next morning, Bepin Babu was back in Calcutta. He realized that there was truly no hope for him. Soon he would lose everything. So you see a colon here, right? Dot dot, which means the example. So what are the everythings? His will to work. Will means spirit. His spirit, or you say determination. Radhava. His confidence, his ability, his balance of mind. So all of these things, everything would lose slowly if he couldn't cure this illness. Was he going to end up in the asylum at dot dot dot? What's the asylum's name? Okay, asylum is like a place of which gives shelter. It's like kind of like a prison, mental prison here. Bepin Babu couldn't think anymore. So now he's afraid and he lost all his hope. He's desperate that he's going to forget every event slowly and eventually. Back home, he rang up Dr. Chanda and asked him to come over. So Dr. Chanda, the physician who suggested him to move to have a trip to Ranchi. Then after a shower, he got into bed with an ice bag clamped on his head. Ice bag clamped means hold or put on his head tightly. Okay, so when you hold something tightly, that's clamp. Just then the servant brought him a letter which someone had left in the letter box. A greenish envelope with his name in red ink on it. Then the servant entered the bedroom and gave him a letter which was there in the letter box. And here you see a picture. Bepin Babu is lying in bed and he's resting and he looks very tense. The servant enters and then he gave the envelope to Bepin Babu. Above the name it said urgent and confidential. So you know what urgent means? Necessary and like important as of now, and confidential means it has some when you don't share things with other people, that's confidential, okay, like secret. In spite of his condition, so in spite of means regardless of how he felt then, how he was physically, Bepin Babu had a feeling that he ought to go through the letter. He must go through the letter. He should read it. He tore open the envelope. Tore is the past tense of tear. So he cut the envelope and took out the letter. This is what he read. Dear Bepin, I had no idea that affluence would bring about the kind of change in you that it has done. So affluence means wealth, okay, wealth. So the writer does not believe that because Bepin Babu became rich and wealthy, it will bring such kind of change in his behavior. Was it so difficult for you to help out an old friend down on his luck? So who is this old friend? Can you remember? It's Chunni Lal. So Chunni Lal, as we know, he was having bad luck then. He was not getting any job, down on luck. So, and we know Bepin didn't help, right? I have no money, so my resources are limited. Okay, resources here means the product and the articles that he should buy to start a business. What I have is imagination, a part of which I used in retribution of your unfeeling behavior. So he used, Chunni Lal used his imagination to take revenge here. Retribution normally means when you punish someone as a form of revenge because of his unfeeling behavior. Bepin Babu behaves as if he doesn't have any feeling, as if he has a cold heart. Well, you'll be all right again now. A novel I have written is being considered by a publisher. If he likes it enough, it will see me through the next few months. So at the end he says that now he's not going to trouble Bepin Babu. He can live his life freely. But remember that you should not be a person who doesn't show feelings and concern and shouldn't be indifferent to his friends and acquaintances. Written by yours, Chunni Lal, right? So we know who Chunni Lal is. Chunni Lal is the school friend who came there at Bepin's place and asked him for job. So all the events that took place, Parimal Ghosh and all other, they were a part of Chunni Lal's plan. But the doctor doesn't seem so, because in the end, when Dr. Chanda came, Bepin Babu said, I'm fine. It all came back as soon as I got off the train at Ranchi. So he lied here, right? A unique case, said Dr. Chandra. I shall certainly write about it in my medical journal. So a journal is like a diary in which he writes his medical findings, okay? And he shall certainly do it. The reason why I sent for you, said Bepin Babu, is that I have a pain in the hip from a fall I had in Ranchi. If you could prescribe a painkiller. So we know that in Ranchi, when he visited Hudro's fall, he fainted there, right? And that fall had a pain in his hip. So he asked him to prescribe, to write down a painkiller so that he can get it from a medical store. Written by Satyajit Ray, okay, an Indian author, and as I told you, he's a writer who composes suspenseful stories. So with this, we are done with the overall story. Although it has 4 parts, we tried to cover it in small short videos. So here are some questions which you can pause video and think of it. And now this one is quite important. I want my students to think of the answer to these questions and then answer them in your notebook, okay, as a part of your homework, and then share it to me as soon as possible, okay? And once you share this homework with me, you will get your attendance. I hope you get the point, and if you don't understand questions here, then you can leave a message and I shall try to clarify them. Thank you all.